Hello, and welcome to Battle Report number 23. So, unbelievably, I'm still going through the Scottish Championships. I actually played this game back on the 22nd of March of this year. I'm now recording it on the 1st of December. I don't know how I've managed to leave it this long, but this one is the final game. We'll finally be done, and then immediately after this we'll be on to real-life battle reports with real photos, real models, real dice, real people. It's all very exciting. Stick with me for one more, and you'll have to bear with me because, as I've said, I played this game about 9 months ago. So I've got all my notes, I've got all the photos and everything, so we should do not too badly. Yeah, so it might be a shortish one, but we'll see how we get on. So, for the 5th round of the Scottish Championships, I was playing against Sylvan Elves. I can't remember what So I played Saurian Ancients in round 4, Dwarves in round 3, Old Vermin Swarm in round 2, and game 1 was Demon Legions. So, yes, game 5. Let's have a look at this, shall we? So we'll have to remind myself as well of what my list is. So apologies if you know this list backwards and forwards because you've been watching the other battle reports. So I've got a Duke on a Barded Warhorse. He's got a shield enchanted with the Fortress of Faith. He's got a lance with the supernatural dexterity. He's got a bastard sword, Basalt Infusion, Obsidian rock, and he's got might. So he's got a questing oath as well. So classic might build, but with a questing oath instead of Grail. Next, I've got a Grail Duke, who's my general. He's on a Barded Warhorse as well. He's got a shield, heavy armor enchanted with Crusader's Salvation to give him 1-up rerollable. He's got hand weapon enchanted with the Hero's Heart for a load of Strength 5 AP3 attacks. Crystal Ball to give an extra bonus to Dispelling. And the Virtue of Valour, which is the automatically issue a duel that has to be accepted by someone, and then he gets to reroll hits and wounds in that duel. Next I've got a Damsel on a Barded Warhorse. She's a Wizard Master of Druidism, and she has a magical heirloom. My questing Paladin, he is my battle standard bearer. He's on a horse, he's got a shield, he's got an Aether icon, his lance is enchanted with the Wyrmwood core, and he's got a potion of strength as well. Then in core, I've got 15 Knights Aspirant with the full command and Banner of the Last Charge, 2 lots of 6 Knights of the Realm with full command, a unit of 8 Knights of the Grail with full command and Stalker standard, 10 Knights of the Quest with full command and Stalker standard, the Green Knight, and 2 lots of 5 Yeomen Outriders with shields, light armor, and bows. Perfect, and that takes me up to the full 5,000 points. And then my opponent, who's playing Sylvan Elves, as I've said, he's got a Druid who's on a Dragon. He's a Wizard Master of Shamanism. He's got 2 Binding Scrolls and Sylvan Blades. His General is a Forest Prince on a Great Elk with light armor enchanted with the Destiny's Call. He's got a Sylvan Longbow, Sylvan Blades enchanted with Titanic Might, so he's got 5 Strength 7 AP3 attacks. Dragonfire Gem and Wild Hunter, which gives him extra attacks on the charge and battle focus, and he causes fear on the charge. All that kind of good stuff makes him pretty scary, quite expensive, but he's not tremendously tough with Destiny's Call. I think he's res 5 with a few wounds, then he's got a 4-up for it. His battle standard bearer is a chieftain sitting on an Eagle King. He's wearing the Essence of Mithril. He's got Sylvan Blades enchanted with the Spirit of the Whirlwind, which is +1 attack, +1 strength, gives lethal strike, and magical attacks, which is pretty cool. And then he's got a potion of strength as well. In core, 2 lots of 25 Dryads with scoring and champions, 2 lots of 5 Heath Riders. 1 unit is Heath Hunters, so that's the light troops with bows, and 1 unit with shields and a musician, and that's the scoring lot. In special, 2 lots of 6 Kestrel Knights with shields, standard bearers, and champions, and both units have the Banner of the Silent Mist. So, Banner of the Silent Mist, the bearer's unit gains soft cover, and enemy units within 3 inches of the bearer's unit may not gain any benefit from a musician, which is quite nice, especially considering their move 9-18 light troops flying cavalry. So that's 1,200 points there. That's incredibly difficult to pin down. Next is a large unit of chaff. That's 5 Forest Eagles, just as fast as the Kestrel Knights. Just as difficult to pin down. Slightly less expensive though. Then a Wizard Conclave in the shape of 8 Briar Maidens with a Standard Bearer with Flaming Standard. So let's take a look at the game. So this is post-Vanguard. On his side, he's got the Kestrel Knights on the left that are Vanguarded up. Then here's 8 Briar Maidens with his general. Behind them is the Forest Eagles. In front of that is the Heath Hunters with Vanguard. They Vanguarded up. Then the Dragon with the Shamanism Druid. One block of Dryads, another block of Dryads. Then the Scoring Heath Riders and the other unit of Kestrel Knights. On my side, I've got Yeoman Outriders who have Vanguarded up behind the hill, trying to keep themselves safe as best as possible. Facing downwards to try and cover more angles from those Kestrel Knights coming down. Kestrel Knights are lightly armoured enough that probably Yeomen scare them as well. Certainly I might pin them in place for a little while. So they're facing down to try and cover angles at the bottom. The 2 lots of 6 Knights of the Realm to the left of my big lance of Aspirant Knights with the Banner of the Last Charge. Another unit of Yeomen hiding behind a wall up there with their Vanguard. Then on the hill is my 10 Questing Knights with my Might Duke and my BSB. And then on the far right is my 8 Grails with my Druidism Damsel and my Valour General. So for this game we were playing Counter Thrust and King of the Hill. So King of the Hill is the pick terrain piece and then try and sit in it at the end of the game. Both of us chose the forest on the right hand side. That's why there's a crown sitting in there. And Sylvan Elves take the first turn. So with their moves here, they push very, very aggressively on the left, as I've covered it pretty badly. Those Heath Riders have provided a little bit of chaff. I think they might be out of line of sight of those Knights of the Realm there. So they're just covering the Kestrel Knights from the Yeoman Outriders. As I said, they might be a little bit worried about their charge. The Briar Maidens have a shooting attack, so they've moved up close enough to shoot at the Yeoman. And everything on the right-hand side is admittedly much slower, but also doesn't want to attempt any long charges from my Knights. They've moved up rather cautiously. In Magic, he casts a totem on the right-hand side. That's that little fire-breathing bear on the right flank. The Briar Maidens shoot off 3 Yeoman Outriders and they fail their panic and flee right out in front of all my guys. And we go to Equitaine turn 1. Oh, I think another thing that I missed there was the that forest on the right hand side. You'll remember that Sylvan Elves have a special rule called Tree Singing, where they can expend a Veil token to move a forest 6 inches if it's within 24 inches of a model with Tree Singing. And of course, that forest is the objective, so he's scooted the objective 6 inches further away from me than it started the game. So when it comes to my turn, I very, very hastily stick a unit in that forest to stop it from moving any further, and I block off the totemic summons from getting anywhere too interesting. It'll either have to charge into my flank, at which point it may or may not kill 1 or 2 Grail Knights, and then I'll just force it to flee with all my static combat res. One of the units of Knights of the Realm has gotten right up into the face of the Briar Maidens just to try and stop them from getting... they're all light troops anyway, so I'm probably just throwing that unit away. But I wanted to keep that unit busy for as long as possible so I could push up on the right and try and deal with some of the Dryads and the Kestrel Knights. The Aspirants turn around to face the left a little bit, and I back up with the other unit of Knights of the Realm. It looks like the Yeoman Outriders have kept fleeing, so they're still going. And the other unit that weren't fleeing from behind the wall, they've gone out and chaffed the Dryads to stop them from charging my Grail Knights. Post-Magic, I managed to get Stone Skin off on the 6 Knights of the Realm sitting in front of his general, make them a little bit tougher and try and slow them down. Hopefully the Briar Maidens won't have enough punch to damage them, and the Wild Hunter Lord will have trouble as well, as I'm now Resilience 6 with a 5-up ward against his attacks, plus my armour. And we go to Sylvan Elves turn 2. So for charges, his BSB has charged into the flank of the Rebel Knights along with the Briar Maidens and his general. The Heath Hunters have moved up to chaff my Knight's Aspirant, and the Totemic Summons has used itself as chaff and used its random movement and sat out in front of the Grail Knights just to stop me from getting a long charge on the Dryads. The Kestrel Knights up on the top left have decided they couldn't get anywhere safe, so they've moved back across to where they were originally deployed. In Magic, he gets off another Totemic Summons, this time directly in front of the Grail Knights, facing away so it can use its breath weapon on my Yeoman. I don't think it manages to shoot off because I haven't got a picture for shooting, so maybe it doesn't even use it. Either way, nothing kills there. Nothing else happens in Magic, so we go to Combat. Oh, yes, so, yes, those Yeomen were shot off by the breath weapons of the Totemic Summons there, so that's fine. In combat, the BSB, the Briar Maidens, and his Elk Lord only managed to kill 3 of my Knights of the Realm, and because that's all light troops, I take a Steadfast check on a 7, which I managed to pass. Of course, his Elk Lord causes fear on the charge, so down from Discipline 8. And we go to Equitaine turn 2. So I take the charges on the right with my Questing Knights and Grail Knights into the 2 Totemic Summons to clear them, to stop them from causing me any more troubles further along in the game. The Knights Aspirant go for it into the Heath Hunters. Again, score a little bit of points. I've got enough ranks against all of that light troop stuff that I'm not too worried about a charge from them. Yeah, so I just need to clear their chaff and stop him from having it in the late game. It looks as though the second unit of Yeoman Outriders have just fled the board. They're not on there anymore. Either that or they've been shot off by something. In Magic, I cast Master of Earth up on the Heath Riders in the top right. Kill a pair of them. I get Entwining Roots off on the Dryads in front of my Questing Knights. And I get Stone Skin on the Knights Aspirant in preparation for any charges that might come through after I kill the chaff. So after combat, unsurprisingly, I kill both Totemic Summons and the 15 Knights Aspirant wipe the Heath Hunters. I think probably just with the impacts alone. And then finally on the left, his BSB General and the Briar Maidens wipe out the rest of the Knights Realm. And that takes us to Equitaine... No, it doesn't. Sorry, it takes us to Sylvan Elves turn 3. So, no charges first of all. The Heath Riders on the far right move up to chaff my Questing Knights. The Briar Maidens get out of line of sight of the Knights Aspirant. The Dragon moves over to hide behind the hill. Everything else stays far enough away from the Knights Aspirant so as to not get charged. In Magic, nothing particularly spectacular happens, though he does get off another Totemic Summons in front of the Realm Knights on the hill in the bottom right. Nothing significant happens in shooting by the looks of things. I've lost 1 Knight Aspirant, so probably some 6s rolled there, which is nice. And that takes us to Equitaine turn 3. So, post moves, I have dropped the Green Knight this turn. I've charged the Questing Knights into the Heath Riders in the forest on the right. My Valour Duke has moved across from the Grails into the Knights Aspirant to make that a little bit of a less appealing charge for his general. And the Knights of the Realm have charged into the Totemic Summon on the hill. In Magic, I did get Oaken thrown off this turn. That should be up, but I've forgotten to put that down on the board. I get the Hereditary spell, which I think is probably the only time I cast it this tournament, despite paying for the Magical Heirloom, so woohoo for that. I get Master of Earth off on his BSB and managed to get a wound through on that, despite the decent armor save on that chap. In combat, unsurprisingly, I wipe out those 3 Heath Riders, and the Knights of the Realm make short work of the Totemic Summons. Ignore the fact that the Kestrel Knights are sitting in between my units on the right. I think that was screenshot was taken during his movement phase, so he's just measuring out to see where he could get to. Speaking of which, that takes us to Sylvan's turn 4. So there we go, those Kestrels have finally moved off to the left-hand side. Again, they couldn't get anywhere safe or interesting. The Briar Maidens have again declined to charge into my Knights Aspirant. They've moved off to the right-hand side to chaff up my other Knights of the Realm, try and score those points. The Eagles have come forward to stop my Grails from having quite so much of a move round to either the Dryads or coming around to the bottom to catch more Kestrels. And the dragon and other kestrels and the dryads all continue to be rather sheepish, really. In magic, another totemic summon is dropped. So what's that, number 4 or 5 for the game? So that's dropped out in front of my questing knights, stopping me from charging the dryads immediately next turn. And again, nothing else I think happens. I must have been trying specifically to stop Break the Spirit instead. I guess on the Knights Aspirant, the questing knights and the Grail Knights don't care about that because they're Stalker standards, so and then just getting unlucky with totemic summons. Either way, another one has been dropped and it's chaffing my questing knights. So Equitaine turn 4. So this is my charges here, all the rulers there. I've declared both of the characters out of the questing knights, but of course I can't do that. We noticed this after this screenshot, so just the Might Duke charges out into the side of the totemic summons there. The Green Knight has charged round into the front of the Dryads. Of course, they're fearless. They don't take their terror check. The Grail Knights are going to go into the Eagles and try and wipe them out. And the Knights of the Realm are going to take on the Briar Maidens and see if they can do anything more with a charge. Post moves. So all of those charges make it, because I think they were all short enough to be automatic. My Valour Duke leaves the Knights Aspirant to try and cover the area to the right-hand side from the Briar Maidens and the BSB from getting around there. The Knights Aspirant also point down that way to try and dissuade his BSB from going anywhere particularly interesting. In Magic, it was a 1 phase and I failed to cast Stone Skin apparently. That's the note I've got written down. So nothing happens in Magic. Post-combat. So first of all, the Green Knight up at the top there rolled really, really well, and then the Dryads just failed their Steadfast 8 check. And then because they were so close to the board, I've chased them off and they're all gone and dead. The Might Duke, I think that was after the Might Duke had charged into the totemic summons, wiped him out, and then failed his overrun, and couldn't quite catch the Dryads. So I was then very worried that the Dryads were going to make a mess of the Green Knight, but no worries, he said, and killed 25 Dryads by himself. The Grails struggle with the Eagles by the looks of things. They've only managed to kill 3 of them. They have broken them from combat, and then I chose to not chase them down. I was worried about getting a flank charge from a dragon and the Kestrel Knights and getting too close to those Dryads as well, so I just let them go because they're not worth very many points. And then at the very bottom with the Knights of the Realm, they've killed 1 Briar Maiden and they've lost 2 guys in return, so I think that was probably a draw or I passed my break check. Sylvan Elves turn 5. He rallies the fleeing Eagles. His Kestrel Knights at the top continue to play keep away and hide in between the arcs of the Green Knight and the Might Duke. The BSB finally goes into the front of the Knights Aspirant, see if he can grind through those guys. And the Kestrel Knights at the bottom and the Dragon have found a pocket to hide in and get nice and close to my lines. In Magic, he casts Master of Earth on my General, the Valour Duke sitting by the forest on the right, which I save. I save all of those wounds done there. He regrows the wound that had been done to the BSB earlier on, and all of the spells fail or were dispelled. In combat, his Elk Wild Hunter Prince wipes out my Knights of the Realm. The Eagle King BSB has been challenged out by my champion, who he promptly murders. I then pass my break check with my BSB and my General there. And then we go to Equitaine turn 5. So no charges as I couldn't get anything. I wasn't in range of anything in particular. My BSB moves out of his questing knight unit to use his breath weapon on the Kestrel Knights and try and trap them a little bit. And I rearrange the Might Duke and the Green Knight, trying to stop the Kestrel Knights from getting away. And the questing knights continue to sit in the objective. In Magic, I regrow the champion. I'm not sure why I spent... maybe he stopped Oaken Throne. So I may have tried to cast Oaken Throne, he stopped that, and then I had to spend Summer's Growth on the Knight's Aspirant to regrow the champion there. I cast Master of Earth on the Kestrel Knights in the middle and kill one of them. In shooting, I kill another one with my Wyrmwood Lance. And then in combat, the BSB continues to be fine despite my banner and 3 ranks. He killed me with 1 overkill, so he's passing on a -2 with a reroll. So I think that's Discipline 7 with reroll, so that's fairly safe. And we go to Sylvan Elves turn 6. So a load of charges declared on the Knight's Aspirant. The Elk Wild Hunter comes out of his Briar Maiden unit into the front of the Knight's Aspirant. The Kestrel Knights finally make a charge from the centre into the flank of the Knight's Aspirant. The Briar Maidens move forward to chaff my Valour Duke from getting into his general. The Eagles chaff the Grail Knights from getting into the Kestrel Knights in the big combat there in case everything goes wrong for the Sylvans. The Kestrel Knights at the top fail their march check, but they've got just enough space and room to get into another blind spot there. So unfrustratingly, I've chased them around for 6 turns and I've not been able to catch them. I've got another turn, haven't I? But yes, I won't be able to catch them, unfortunately. And the dragon gets really, really bold and uses himself as chaff against my BSB to stop him from getting into a fight as well. In Magic... by the looks of things, those Briar Maidens were a little bit further back in the moves. Post-Magic, I stop a Totemic Summons in front of my General. And he gets off the Hereditary spell on the Kestrel Knights to put them in a... it must be on the big version of the Hereditary to force me to reroll 6s to hit. Nothing else interesting happens in Magic. In combat, though, between all of that Strength 4 AP2 attacks from the Kestrels and the blender that the Elk Lord is, he makes short work of the Knight's Aspirant, and they are promptly murdered and then run down. And that takes us to the final turn of the game. That's Equitaine turn 6. Post moves, I've charged the Grail Knights into the Eagles, and my Valour Duke has charged into the Briar Maidens to try and grab their points as well. I cast Oaken Throne from my Druidess, who suffers a miscast and kills 1 Grail Knight. I then regrow him from Entwining Roots anyway, and then post-combat, I kill the champion with my Valour Duke. Because of course I have to issue a challenge that has to be accepted, and then with the BSB in general there, he passes his break test. And that takes us to the very end of the game. So, with the scoring there, my Questing Knights of course have spent the whole game sitting in the objective, so I've scored that, and after points, that leaves us at a 13-7 to the Equitaine. So a very cagey game, as you might expect with Equitaine against Sylvan Elves, especially with so many light troops. So I think that went about as well as I can really hope for, I think. You know, I managed to track down enough points to keep it equal, despite losing all the bits and pieces here and there. I protected my big lances for as long as I possibly could, and I made sure to make sure that the objective wasn't scooted any further away from me. I think Dryads sitting in the forests would have been very hard to shift, but yes, a game well played. It was really really good fun. Again, I played it months and months ago, but clearly I remember enough of it to talk about it for half an hour, so must have been a good game. And that's finally the end of the Scottish Championships. So thank you for sticking with me for this long. As I said earlier, next up will be real life battle reports. So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.